The most complicated action in the entire PPW set is that of Chapter 15. It's the sharpening action. You don't really need to use it to make use of the rest of the picture postcard workflow. You can use your own sharpening method. If you choose to use this one, it can be done very easily. It can be as complex as you care to make it, because it has pretty much every tool that someone who's interested in sharpening can employ. Here I have on the screen, I've got figure 15.4, a picture of a woman drinking champagne, and we showed how to sharpen it in the chapter. But let me point out how this action works. There are 110 steps in it. It produces 5 different types of sharpening all at once. And here they are, 5 different layers. Each one can be adjusted individually. Or you can just do things the easy way, which is this top layer set incorporates all 5 of them, and you can reduce the opacity until you find something that looks good. There's before, there's after. That's a very modest sharpen. There's a bigger one. There's before, there's after, and it masks out a lot of bad stuff that other sharpening methods let go through. Okay, it can be even more complex than this, more complex than just going into these 5 layers, because effective with version 3 of this panel, there are options in here that are quite unbelievable. So that of these 5 kinds of sharpens, if you now go in and instead of clicking on the action, if you option click, up pops a new menu, which allows adjustment of the halo size in any or all of these menus. Plus, you can turn any of them off or on as you see fit. So you could turn off, let's say, the darkening halos, which are the most conventional sharpening halos if you want. Okay, as you can see, this can get very time-consuming very fast. So if the alternative is spending the afternoon surfing YouTube, you may wish to sharpen a single picture using every single one of these options. Okay. Now, if you want to know how all this works, not only is there Chapter 15 of this book, but within the panel, we have quite an extensive help file about this action. Here it is. How many pages is it? 23. Okay, with lots and lots of examples and explanations of what all is going on if you are one of these perverted people who wants to study sharpening for the rest of your life. Okay, if you think I'm going to take a very short video here and explain all of this, you are very much mistaken. Instead, I'm going to tell you something that baffled a few of the beta readers who didn't figure out how this action was working because they didn't grasp the concept of a halo map. So let me show what a halo map is and what its basic advantages are. I'm not the only person who has ever dealt with halo maps. There are a lot of other interesting sharpening applications out there that generate their own. But let me talk to you about what they are, and so I will generate a couple of very simple ones, and then you may see what some of the attractions are. Okay, suppose that I don't really know what I'm doing about sharpening, and instead of using this nice stuff, I'm going to revert back to the original RGB image, and I'll make a copy just to work with later. Okay, back to the original. Now I'm going to use conventional unsharp masking, which is this, and let me put it on a layer. Okay, so here's unsharp masking, and I'm going to do a big hefty amount here. Okay, I want to make sure that I've sharpened it too much, and I have. Okay, there's before, there's after. Now, you could just reduce the opacity of that if you wanted to, but if you ever wanted to retouch it or do something to restrict the effect, you'd be in some sort of difficulty because this is the picture right now. There is nothing has broken this into the sharpened parts and the unsharpened parts. That's what I would like to do. Okay, so to show how to generate a halo map that you could do these things with, first thing I will do is change this sharpened layer from normal mode to darken mode. So that what we have here is only the darkening artifacts of the sharpening process, because the lightening artifacts have been turned off by this layer change. Now, back over here to my unsharpened original, and I make a copy of it. To this copy, apply image, from the other, and I can do that because it's the same size as this one, being a direct copy. And I go and I get the merged layer, which is this one, and I want to know what's the difference between the merged layer and the one that's there right now. So I use, instead of normal mode, difference mode. And there it is. Okay, this is these white lines show the parts of the sharpened image that wound up being darker than the original. And it's probably easier to see them if I invert this layer. So I do that now. That's a halo map. That's a map of the dark halos of this image. Okay, I'm going to do another one here. Okay, here I'm going to apply the original. Of the background. Normal mode. So there's the unsharpened original again. And now I go back here, and instead of using darken mode on the top layer, I'm going to change it to lighten mode. So this is going to show what the lightning halos were like. Okay. Back to my halo map. These are going to be dark halos, and these eventually will be light ones. To get them, I apply the other version. And remember, this one is showing the light halos. And so it's being applied to an unsharpened version of the original. And again, I want to do difference mode. And there's the difference. These lines that you see, these are the lines that will be lighter in the sharpened version than they were in the original. And I'm not going to invert this one because this one should be used to lighten. Okay, so I have two sets of halo maps here, one to darken, one to lighten. But the original image has never been touched. If I want to add the dark halos, I come here, and normally multiply mode would do it. So see, that adds the dark halos. And now approximately we were where we were when the other image, when we changed it to darken mode. And then if we want to add the light halos are like this. Do it in screen mode, and now the light halos have been added. Okay, there's before, there's after. And here you will see one of the sad facts of life about sharpening, which is light halos are generally more obnoxious than dark ones. So you'd probably want to go in and reduce the opacity of this layer, or better yet, like the action does, make these light halos narrower than the dark halos are. Okay, now what good are halo maps beyond what we've seen before? Well, what happens if you like to go in and do some hand retouching? Here, like for example, in the face, most women are not too keen on having wrinkles and blemishes and stuff emphasized. So let's turn off the light halos just so they don't confuse. There's before, there's after. So you see, this is not really doing much for her skin tone. It is doing some good stuff in the rest of the picture. Now this is highly magnified, so you don't want to think too much of these defects. Maybe look at that magnification to get a better idea of what's going on. Okay, let's say for the sake of argument that we like what's going on in the hand and in the glass, but we can't stand what's going on in the face. Okay, there's the unsharpened version. There's if you add the dark halos. You could just put a layer mask here and fix it. Or, if you wanted to, there's the dark halos again. You could just use the MPPS, that is the Margulis patented precision selection, like that, and fill it with white. And now that part has been removed from the halo map. Change back to multiply mode. And voila. If we hide, oops, let's hide the extras. Okay, you see what that did? It's almost hard to see where the selection line is. Okay. There's before, there's after. So some people like to do their editing that way. And of course, another way of doing it would be, step backward here. Okay, I hope there's no selection. If you think that some of these light areas are distracting, you could do it with a curve. So you could do this. See how doing this to the halo map preserves the big areas of sharpening, but hides some of the more offensive ones in the face. Okay, so now this is a different type of sharpening, and sharpening is a notoriously subjective thing. So some people hardly want to sharpen at all, other people want to sharpen a whole lot, and everybody has different ideas of what looks good. With this, you can customize sharpening however you like, depending on how much time you want to spend on it. So that much is up to you, but the tools are certainly there with this action, and I hope this explanation of what a halo map is may stir you to think about certain of these options to see whether they can make sense in your workflow.